Hi everyone, I'm Nick Gillard from One Bit Rainbow, and in this video I'm going to show you how to flash a new version of the pico-mac-nano firmware onto your pico-mac-nano and how to use the micro SD card slot to boot up from a custom disk image rather than the one that's built in. It'll allow you to do things like this. A lot of people have asked about why can't I run Mac Paint. Now we're going to show you how. If you already know what this is all about, if you know what it means and you know why you want to flash new firmware or use a disk image, you can fast forward this bit where I'll just explain it. So what is firmware? The firmware is a single file which incorporates everything that the Raspberry Pi RP2040 microcontroller in the pico-mac-nano, everything it needs to run. This includes the software originally written by Matt Evans and tweaked by yours truly to run on the Pico Zero and to use the LCD. It contains a copy of the ROM chip from a Macintosh Plus, don't worry about that, and it contains a disk image file, and that contains system software, applications, games, and everything that allows you to actually boot up and use the Mac. Change any one of these and you need to rebuild the firmware and flash new firmware or copy it onto the Pico Zero. So in this video, I'm going to be flashing the pico-mac-nano, this one here, with a version of the firmware that's been compiled with the 208K memory option enabled. This gives the Macintosh system an extra 80K of RAM compared to the 128K in the original Macintosh. It doesn't sound like much, but it's enough to help the Mac run certain bits of software like Mac Paint. So once we've given the system a bit more memory, Mac Paint will work okay, right? Unfortunately not. Now there's another reason that will stop it running, and that is because Mac Paint insists on having a writable disk. What it sees as the hard disk, it needs to be able to write to it, and so although it will launch and you'll get the interface up, you'll still get an error and it'll kick you back out again. The solution to all this is to use a disk image that can be written to as well as read from, and that is where the SD card slot comes in on the back of your pico-mac-nano. When pico-mac software starts up, the first thing it does pretty much is to look to see if it can find an SD card with a suitable disk image file on it. And if it does, it attempts to boot from that. If it doesn't, it just reverts to using the built-in disk image that's flashed into the firmware. Now, creating your own disk image is a bit complicated, so I'm not going to cover that here. We're just going to download one that I created from the pico-mac-nano GitHub repository. So let's just charge in and do it. Let's go and get those files. If you go to onebitrainbow.com, click on pico-mac, and it'll take you to the main pico-mac project page. From there, click on GitHub, and there we go, we're at the GitHub page. To get the firmware, we're going to go into the firmware folder. This is the stock firmware that your pico-mac-nano came with. This is the one we're going to load, pico-mac-nano 19 208K. So we're going to select that and then click the little download raw file up here. Say yes, happy to download. The disk image file we want is going to be in disk images. And we are going to again take the second one, download that, allow, and go to our downloads folder, and there they are. Now we're going to flash the firmware onto the Pico. This is my trusted little pico-mac-nano, a bit beaten up, but to put new firmware on it, you use this B button underneath. You have to hold it down while you connect it up via USB to your computer, and then you can let go of it. Then you should find that it has popped up onto your Mac or PC. Then what we're going to do is we're going to just take that firmware file, drop it let me do that, drop that onto the Pico. That will now write the file to the Pico 0. When it's finished, it will automatically unmount from the Mac and restart. So we'll just wait a few seconds for that to happen. One thing to mention about the 208K build, for a reason I'm currently unaware of, it makes the startup much slower. It goes through a process of flashing the screen 3 times. Once, there you go, twice, and 3 times, and then it will boot as normal. I thought at first it was to do with my coding in the pico-mac-nano, but I've gone back to the original pico-mac project and built it on a standard Pico, and it does the same thing. So I'm hoping I'll fix that at some point, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, so we've flashed the new firmware. The next step is to use the new image file. So I've got a little tiny micro SD card here. Doesn't matter how small it is, whatever you use is going to be enough, because you only need a tiny amount of space. So I'm going to use this adapter. Going to plug it into my Mac. It should pop up here now. There it is. And what I'm going to do is just show you that if I just hold down the control key here and do get info, or from the file menu, it'll tell me what the format is. This is formatted as exFAT, which is what Matt Evans says should preferably be used. That's on the pico-mac documentation. I found it works with a standard FAT format, but if you have any problems, you can just go into disk utility, select it, erase it. Doesn't matter what it's called. Make sure exFAT is selected and just erase it. There we go. Done. Okay. So basically we copy the disk image we downloaded onto that. I'll just take a couple of seconds. Okay, then we eject that. Take the SD card out of the reader. We'll insert it into the back of the pico-mac-nano, and it needs to be upside down. Make sure it's all the way in. So the writing should be on the underside. It's just a quirk of the design that I was stuck with. We'll then power it on. What it will do once it's finished its 3 flashes is look to see if it can see that boot image, and because there's a valid system there, it'll boot up from that. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. Now, let me just launch that. There's a little Mac Paint document I prepared for you. But yes, this is now working in Mac Paint. We can, no, we don't want to do that. So that is it. That shows you how we have flashed new firmware. We have downloaded a disk image, loaded it onto the SD card. I hope you have fun with those two. Thanks for watching.